I cared for my dying father for 2 years. 6 months before he died, my stepbrother appeared and inherited everything. 2 years of caregiving. Doctor appointments, hospital stays, feeding tubes, everything. Then his estranged son showed up and walked away with the house, the savings, everything. My name is Daniel Foster. I'm 38 years old. 2 years ago, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave him 6 to 12 months. I quit my job immediately, moved into his house, became his full-time caregiver. For 2 years, I did everything. Everything a person can do for someone dying slowly. Managed his medications. 23 different prescriptions at the peak. Pills for pain, nausea, appetite stimulation, blood pressure, blood thinners, anti-anxiety, sleep. Each with specific timing requirements. Some with food, some without. Some that couldn't be taken together. I created detailed spreadsheets. Set alarms on my phone. Never missed a dose. Because missing a dose meant more pain, more suffering. Drove him to chemo appointments 3 times a week. 4-hour infusions at the cancer center. I'd pack snacks, blankets, entertainment. Sit with him in the cold infusion room while poison dripped into his port. Watch him suffer through nausea and exhaustion. Drive him home carefully over every bump because his body hurt everywhere. Helped him bathe when he was too weak to stand on his own. Supported his weight in the shower. Washed his back, his hair. Helped him dry off without falling. Dressed him in clean clothes while he apologized for needing help with such basic things. "I'm sorry you have to do this," he'd say. "Don't apologize, Dad. This is what family does." Fed him when he couldn't eat solid food anymore. The cancer affected his ability to swallow. We went from regular meals to soft foods to pureed foods to nutrition shakes to a feeding tube. I learned how to operate the feeding tube, how to measure and mix the formula, how to slowly pump nutrition directly into his stomach, how to clean the site to prevent infection, how to recognize signs of complications. Sat with him through the pain and fear and deterioration. The screaming pain at 3 a.m. that morphine barely touched. The panic attacks when he couldn't breathe properly. The depression when he realized he'd never get better. The fear as death approached. I was there for all of it. Every terrible, heartbreaking moment. Changed his bedding when he had accidents. Adult diapers can only do so much. Cleaned him up. Washed sheets in the middle of the night. Never complained. Never made him feel ashamed. Managed his finances when he couldn't anymore. Paid bills. Handled insurance claims. Fought with insurance companies when they denied coverage for medications or treatments. Spent hours on hold with customer service. Filed appeals. Did whatever it took to get him the care he needed. Monitored his oxygen levels. He needed supplemental oxygen toward the end. I'd check his levels constantly with a pulse oximeter. Adjust the flow rate. Make sure the cannula stayed in place. Refill oxygen tanks. Coordinated with his medical team. Oncologist, pain management specialist, palliative care doctor, hospice nurse. Communicated symptoms. Asked questions. Made decisions when he was too confused or exhausted to make them himself. Kept him company through the long, terrible days. Read to him when he couldn't focus on TV. Played his favorite music. Looked through old photos together. Talked about my mom, about his life, about things he wanted me to remember. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. Physically exhausting. Emotionally devastating. Watching your father die slowly is a special kind of hell. You lose him piece by piece. His strength, his independence, his personality, his dignity. Until all that's left is pain and fear and the shell of who he used to be. I cried in the shower every day, where he couldn't hear me, where I could let out the grief and stress and exhaustion without adding to his burden. But when I was with him, I was strong, positive, loving, whatever he needed me to be. Because he was my dad, and I loved him. And even though it was destroying me, I did it without hesitation. I had no social life during this time. My friends stopped calling after the first few months. They didn't understand, didn't know what to say. Invitations to hang out felt insulting. I couldn't just leave my dying father to go to happy hour. The few times I tried to explain what my days were like, people got uncomfortable, changed the subject. Nobody wants to hear about feeding tubes and morphine doses and existential terror at 2 a.m. So I stopped trying, became isolated. My world shrank to just me and my dad and the daily routine of keeping him alive a little longer. No hobbies, no dating, no time for myself. I barely slept, lived on coffee and stress, lost 20 pounds from forgetting to eat, developed anxiety that manifested as chest pains and insomnia. But my dad needed me. That was all that mattered. Nothing else in my life mattered compared to that. The chemo bought time, more than the doctors expected, more than we'd hoped for. My dad made it past the 6-month mark they'd predicted, then 9 months, then a year, then 18 months. Each milestone felt like a victory, like we were beating the odds, like maybe he'd be one of those miracle cases you hear about. But we weren't beating anything, just delaying the inevitable. And the longer he lived, the worse he suffered. He had good days and bad days, good weeks and terrible weeks. On good days, he was almost himself. We'd sit on the porch in the mild Nashville weather and talk, watch birds at the feeder. He'd tell stories about his childhood, about my mom when they first met, about when I was a baby, and kept them up all night with colic. "You were a handful," he'd say with a weak smile, "but worth every sleepless night." "I'm trying to repay those sleepless nights now," I'd joke. "You've repaid them 1,000 times over, son. You're a good man. Your mother would be so proud of you." Those moments made everything worth it. Those glimpses of my real dad. Not the sick, dying version, but the father I'd known my whole life. On bad days, he was in so much pain he couldn't get out of bed, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, just existed in a fog of morphine and agony. I'd give him extra pain medication within safe limits. Sit with him, holding his hand, playing soft music, telling him it was okay, that I was there, that he wasn't alone. Sometimes he'd cry from the pain, from the indignity of it all, from knowing this was how he'd spend his final days. "I don't want you to remember me like this," he'd say. "I remember all of you, Dad. The strong father who taught me how to change a tire. The man who walked me through my first heartbreak. The guy who still calls me on my birthday every year at the exact time I was born. This is just a part of your story, not the whole thing." Throughout all of this, my dad talked about the house, about his wishes for after he was gone. "When I'm gone, this place is yours, Daniel. You've sacrificed so much to take care of me, given up your job, your savings, your whole life. I'm not going to leave you with nothing. Dad, don't worry about that. I'm not doing this for an inheritance. I'm doing it because you're my father and I love you. I know you're not doing it for money. That's exactly why you deserve it. You're here because you love me, not because you want something from me. But I want you to have security when this is over. This house is paid off, worth at least $400,000. It'll give you a foundation to rebuild your life. I've already talked to my lawyer, updated my will. It's taken care of." "Okay, Dad. Thank you. But I'd rather have you." "I know, son. I know." Honestly, the money wasn't important to me. I genuinely didn't care about inheriting the house. I would have done this anyway. Would have made all the same sacrifices even if I was getting nothing. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't provide some comfort, some security for an uncertain future. I'd spent all my savings on living expenses during the 2 years I couldn't work. Had no job to go back to. My old employer had filled my position months ago. Was 37 years old with a 2-year gap on my resume and no financial cushion. Knowing I'd have the house meant I wouldn't be homeless when this was over. Meant I could either live there rent-free while I figured things out, or sell it and have enough money to get a new apartment and survive while job hunting. It felt fair, not a payment for caregiving. You can't put a price on what I did, but a recognition of the sacrifice. A thank you, a way to ensure I'd be okay after he was gone. But I wasn't counting on it, wasn't making plans around it, wasn't measuring my caregiving against potential inheritance. I was just focused on my dad, on making his remaining time as comfortable and dignified as possible. 6 months before he died, his estranged son from a previous marriage showed up. Connor, my stepbrother, someone I barely knew, someone my father hadn't seen in 15 years. Connor claimed he wanted to reconnect, to make peace before it was too late. My father was overjoyed, desperate for Connor's love and approval after years of rejection. Within weeks, Connor had moved into the house, started undermining my caregiving, planting seeds of doubt in my father's mind. "Daniel's only here for the inheritance. He quit his job because he knew you'd leave him everything. He's manipulating you." My father changed his will, put Connor as the sole beneficiary. When my father died, I got nothing. Not the house. Not the savings. Nothing. Connor immediately gave me an eviction notice. 30 days to get out. I lost my father, my home, 2 years of my life, everything. And Connor walked away with a house worth $400,000 and $70,000 in savings. This is the story of what happens when you sacrifice everything for family and they betray you in the end. My father's name was Robert Foster. He was 68 years old when he died. He was a good man, hardworking, kind, a little rough around the edges, but with a good heart. He'd been married twice. First to Connor's mother, Linda. That marriage lasted about 8 years before it fell apart. I don't know all the details. My dad didn't talk about it much. But from what I gathered, it was messy. Lots of fighting. Incompatible lives. They divorced when Connor was about 7 years old. Linda got primary custody of Connor. My dad got every other weekend and some holidays. The relationship between my dad and Connor was strained from the start. Linda poisoned Connor against him. Told him his father didn't want him, didn't love him, chose work over family. None of it was true. My dad loved Connor, tried his best to maintain a relationship. But Connor grew distant, resentful. By the time he was a teenager, he refused to come for visitation, wouldn't answer my dad's calls, cut him off completely. My dad was heartbroken, but he didn't give up, kept trying, kept reaching out, kept hoping Connor would come around eventually. He never did. 15 years of silence. My dad met my mom when Connor was about 10. They got married a year later. I was born when my dad was 32. I grew up knowing I had an older half-brother somewhere, but I never met him. He was just a name, a ghost, someone my dad mentioned occasionally with sadness in his voice. I have another son, Connor. Maybe someday you'll meet him. But we never did. My childhood was good, stable. My parents loved each other. My dad worked as an electrician. My mom was a teacher. We lived in a modest house in Nashville. Nothing fancy, but it was home. My dad was a great father to me. Taught me how to fix things, how to work hard, how to be a good man. We had a close relationship. Went fishing together, watched football, talked about life. When I was 23, my mom died suddenly. Heart attack. She was only 51. It devastated both of us. But it also brought my dad and me even closer. After Mom died, it was just us. We looked out for each other. I moved out eventually, got my own apartment, built my own life. I worked in IT support. Good job, decent salary, nothing glamorous, but stable. But I saw my dad regularly, had dinner with him once a week, helped him with things around the house, made sure he wasn't lonely. He was my dad, my only parent, the only family I had. In the spring of 2022, my dad started having symptoms. Stomach pain, weight loss, fatigue. He brushed it off at first. I'm just getting old. It's nothing. But it got worse. The pain became unbearable. He couldn't eat. Lost 30 pounds in 2 months. I finally convinced him to see a doctor. They ran tests, did scans, took biopsies. The diagnosis came back in early June. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. Already metastasized to his liver. The oncologist was gentle but honest. This is very advanced. Treatment options are limited. Chemotherapy might give you some more time, but realistically, you're looking at 6 to 12 months. My dad took it stoically, nodded, asked practical questions about treatment and pain management. I fell apart, went to the parking lot, and cried in my car for an hour. My dad was dying, the only family I had left. After the diagnosis, we had a long conversation about what he wanted. I want to fight, he said. Do the chemo. Buy as much time as I can. But I don't want to die in a hospital. When it's time, I want to be at home. Okay, we'll make that happen. Daniel, this is going to be hard. You have your own life. Your job. I don't want to be a burden. Dad, you're not a burden. You're my father. I'm going to take care of you. Whatever you need. I can hire someone. A nurse or something. No, I'm doing this. I'll move in. I'll be here. Daniel. Dad, I'm not arguing about this. You took care of me my whole life. Now it's my turn. He cried, hugged me. You're a good son. The best son a man could ask for. I quit my job 2 weeks later. Used my savings to cover my rent for a few months while I figured out finances. Then I moved into my dad's house, set up the guest bedroom as my room, turned the living room into a medical care space with hospital bed, oxygen tanks, medication organizers. My dad started chemo immediately. Aggressive treatment. The side effects were brutal. Nausea, vomiting, hair loss, extreme fatigue, mouth sores, loss of appetite. I learned how to manage all of it. Anti-nausea medication on a strict schedule. Soft foods he could tolerate. Ice chips when he couldn't keep anything down. Cleaning and dressing the port in his chest for 4 treatments. We established routines. Wake up at 7. Morning medications. Breakfast if he could eat. Rest. Lunch. Afternoon medications. Rest. Dinner. Evening medications. Bed by 9. 3 times a week, I drove him to the cancer center for chemo infusions. 4-hour sessions where I sat with him, reading or working on my laptop, while poison dripped into his veins to kill the cancer. The rest of the time, I managed the house. Grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning, laundry, paying bills, coordinating with doctors and insurance companies. It was exhausting, all-consuming. My entire life became caregiving. I had no social life, no hobbies, no time for myself. Friends stopped calling after a while. They didn't understand, didn't know what to say. I was fine with it. My dad needed me. That was all that mattered. The chemo bought time, more than the doctors expected. My dad made it past the 6-month mark, then 9 months, then a year. He had good days and bad days, good weeks and terrible weeks. On good days, he was almost himself. We'd sit on the porch and talk, watch TV together. He'd tell stories about his life, about my mom, about when I was a kid. On bad days, he was in so much pain he couldn't get out of bed. I'd give him morphine and sit with him, holding his hand, telling him it was okay. Throughout all of this, my dad talked about the house. When I'm gone, this place is yours. You've sacrificed so much to take care of me. I'm not going to leave you with nothing. Dad, don't worry about that. I'm not doing this for an inheritance. I know you're not. That's exactly why you deserve it. You're here because you love me, not because you want something from me. But I want you to have security. This house is paid off, worth at least $400,000. When I'm gone, it's yours. I've already talked to my lawyer. Okay, Dad. Thank you. It wasn't about the money. I genuinely didn't care about the inheritance. I would have done this anyway. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't provide some comfort, some security for the future. I'd spent my savings, had no job to go back to, was 37 years old starting over financially. Knowing I'd have the house meant I wouldn't be homeless when this was over, could sell it if needed, or live there and figure out my next steps. It felt fair, a small recognition of the sacrifice I'd made. But I wasn't counting on it, wasn't planning around it. I was just focused on taking care of my dad. Then, about 18 months into his diagnosis, something changed. My dad started talking about Connor. I wonder where Connor is, what he's doing, if he ever thinks about me. I don't know, Dad. I tried to find him online a few times. He's not on social media, at least not under his name. I wrote him letters over the years, to his mother's address. Never heard back. Maybe he just needs time. It's been 15 years. How much time does he need? My dad became almost obsessed with the idea of reconciling with Connor before he died. I don't want to die without seeing him again, without telling him I love him, without apologizing for whatever I did that made him hate me. Dad, you didn't do anything wrong. His mom turned him against you. Maybe, but I should have tried harder, fought for him more. I let him go. That's on me. I hired a private investigator to find Connor. Cost me $2,000 I didn't really have. Found him in 3 weeks. Living in Atlanta. Working as a sales manager at a tech company. Married. No kids. I called the number the investigator provided. Connor answered. Hello. Connor? This is Daniel. Daniel Foster. Your brother. Long pause. I don't have a brother. Yes, you do. I'm Robert's son. Your dad's son. We have the same father. What do you want? Our dad is sick. Cancer. He's dying. He wants to see you before it's too late. Another pause. Is this some kind of scam? No. I'm serious. He has maybe 6 months left. He talks about you all the time. He misses you. He wants to see you. He didn't miss me for 15 years. That's not true. He tried to reach out. You didn't respond. Because he abandoned me. He didn't abandon you. Your mom got custody. He tried to stay involved. You don't know anything about it. You're right. I don't. But he's dying. And he loves you. If you have any feelings for him at all, please consider visiting. I'll think about it. He hung up. I told my dad I'd found Connor, given him the message, that it was up to Connor now whether he wanted to come. My dad was hopeful, checked his phone constantly for calls or texts that never came. 2 weeks passed. Nothing. Then one day in late October, 3 months after that phone call, the doorbell rang. I opened it. A man about my age stood there, tall, well-dressed, looked like my dad around the eyes. Connor. Yeah. Is Robert here? Yes. Come in. He's in the living room. Connor walked in, looked around, saw the hospital bed, the oxygen tanks, the medical equipment. Saw our dad, thin, pale, weak, wearing a robe and pajamas in the middle of the afternoon. My dad's face lit up like Christmas morning. Connor? Is that really you? Yeah, Dad. It's me. My dad started crying. You came. You actually came. Connor approached the bed slowly, stiffly. I'm sorry it took so long. I needed time to process. It doesn't matter. You're here now. That's what matters. They hugged. My dad sobbed. Connor was more reserved, but clearly emotional. I stood in the doorway watching, feeling like an intruder in my own father's moment. After a few minutes, Connor pulled back. You look different than I remember. I'm dying, son. That tends to change a person. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I stayed away so long. It's okay. You're here now. That's all that matters. They talked for hours, catching up on 15 years. Connor talked about his life, his job, his wife. His dad asked questions, listened intently, savored every detail. I made dinner, brought them food, stayed out of the way. Later that evening, Connor said he needed to get back to Atlanta, had to work the next day. Please come back, my dad begged. Soon. I don't have much time. I will. I promise. He did. Came back the following weekend, and the weekend after that. Each visit, my dad's mood improved dramatically. He had something to live for again, someone he'd been longing for. I was happy for him, genuinely. He deserved this closure, this peace. But I also felt uneasy. Connor was friendly enough to me, polite, but distant, cold almost, like he resented my presence. After the 4th visit, Connor asked if he could stay for a week, take some time off work to spend more time with Dad. Of course, I said. You can stay in the guest room. That's where I've been sleeping, but I can move my stuff to the couch. Don't worry about it. I'll take the couch. But my dad insisted Connor take the guest room. You're my son. You get the bedroom. Daniel doesn't mind. Do you, Daniel? No, of course not. So Connor moved into the guest room. I moved my stuff to the living room, slept on the couch. That week was when things started to change. Connor started questioning my caregiving decisions, undermining me at every turn. Why isn't he eating more? He needs to keep his strength up. You should be encouraging him more. He can't eat much, Connor. The cancer affects his appetite and ability to swallow. I give him high-calorie nutrition shakes when he can tolerate them. That's what the doctors recommend. Maybe the doctors don't know everything. Have you tried different foods? Different preparation methods? Yes, extensively. For 18 months. Trust me, I've tried everything. He looks dehydrated. When was the last time you properly monitored his fluid intake? I track everything meticulously. He's getting adequate fluids through the feeding tube and oral intake when possible. His hydration levels are fine. Are you sure? His skin looks dry. His lips are cracked. That's a side effect of the medications and the cancer itself, not dehydration. If you say so. The doubt in his voice was maddening, like I hadn't been managing every aspect of my father's care for almost 2 years, like I didn't know what I was doing. His medication schedule seems chaotic. Do you have any kind of system, or are you just winging it? I have a detailed system. Every medication is scheduled precisely. I use spreadsheets, alarms, a written log. I've never missed a dose. Can I see the log? I showed him. Months of meticulous documentation. Every pill, every dose, every time. He skimmed it dismissively. Seems complicated. Maybe there's a simpler way to organize this. The way I'm doing it works. It's what the doctors approved. I'm just saying, I do it differently. Then it's good you're not the primary caregiver. Connor would watch me work, criticize small things that didn't matter, make suggestions that showed he had no real understanding of hospice care or terminal illness. You should open the windows more. Fresh air is healing. Dad's on oxygen. Temperature regulation is important. We keep it controlled. You should play more upbeat music. Classical is depressing. He requested classical. It helps him relax. You should encourage him to get out of bed more. Movement is important. He can barely stand, Connor. He uses all his energy just getting to the bathroom and back. Every interaction felt like a challenge, like he was building a case that I wasn't doing my job properly. But my dad didn't see it that way. Thought Connor was being helpful, engaged, showing he cared. Connor started spending hours alone with my dad, talking in low voices, closing the door when I walked by. I tried not to be paranoid. They had 15 years to catch up on. Of course they wanted private time together. But something felt off. One day I came home from the pharmacy to find Connor and my dad looking at documents. Legal papers. They quickly put them away when I walked in. "What's that?" I asked casually. "Just some paperwork," my dad said. "Nothing important." But the way Connor smirked at me made my stomach drop. A few days later, my dad seemed distant, cold toward me in ways he'd never been before. "Dad, is everything okay?" "I'm fine." "You seem upset with me." "I'm not upset, just tired." But he was upset. I could tell. Connor extended his stay. 1 week became 2, then 3. He started acting like he lived there, making decisions about my dad's care without consulting me, rearranging the medication schedule, calling doctors directly. I tried to talk to my dad about it. "Dad, Connor's changes to your medication schedule are confusing. Can we stick to the system that's been working?" "Connor thinks the new schedule is better. He researched it. I've been managing your medications for 18 months. Trust me, the current schedule works." "Maybe you've gotten complacent." Connor's bringing a fresh perspective. "Dad, I'm not complacent. I'm following the doctor's instructions exactly." "Connor says you seem defensive, that you don't want input." "That's not true. I'm just trying to maintain consistency in your care." My dad looked at me coldly. "Maybe you're more worried about protecting your role here than about my well-being." The accusation stung deeply. "Dad, everything I do is about your well-being. You know that." He turned away from me. "I'm tired. I need to rest." Connor appeared in the doorway. "Come on, Daniel. Let him sleep. He needs peace." I wanted to scream, but I left the room. Over the following weeks, Connor systematically turned my dad against me, planted seeds of doubt, suggested I was only there for the inheritance, that I quit my job because I knew the house would be mine, that I was manipulating him. My dad started believing it. He became suspicious of me, questioning my motives, pulling away emotionally. And Connor swooped in to fill that void, the devoted son who came back, who cared, who wanted nothing but to be with his father in his final days. It was a masterful manipulation. 2 months after Connor's arrival, my dad called me into his room. Connor was there. So was a lawyer I didn't recognize. "Daniel, sit down," my dad said. His voice was formal, distant. I sat. The lawyer spoke. "Mr. Foster has asked me to update his will. He wanted you to be present for this conversation." My blood ran cold. "Okay." "Robert is changing the beneficiary designation on his estate. The house, savings accounts, and investment accounts will now go to Connor exclusively." The room spun. "What?" My dad wouldn't look at me. "Connor is my son, my firstborn. I failed him for too many years. I want to make it right." "Dad, I've been taking care of you for almost 2 years. I gave up everything." "You gave up your job because you thought you'd inherit the house." Connor made me see that. "That's not true. I gave up my job because you're my father and I love you. If you truly didn't care about the inheritance, this wouldn't bother you. It bothers me because it's unfair, because it shows you don't value what I've done. It shows that you were doing it for the wrong reasons." "Dad, please, listen to yourself. Connor's been here for 8 weeks. I've been here for 2 years. 2 years of my life. Connor finally spoke. And you've had free room and board for 2 years. You've saved money by living here. Don't act like you've gotten nothing out of this arrangement. I stared at him. The audacity. The cruelty. I spent my savings taking care of him. I have no job to go back to. I've sacrificed everything. That was your choice, Connor said coldly. Dad didn't ask you to quit your job. You made that decision. Because he needed full-time care, which you could have provided while keeping your job, working remotely, hiring help. You chose to quit because you saw an opportunity. That's not true. My dad held up his hand. Weak. Trembling. Enough. My decision is made. Connor is my beneficiary. The will is being changed today. The lawyer had papers. My dad signed them with a shaking hand. Connor witnessed the signature, looking satisfied, victorious. I sat there in shock, unable to process what was happening. When the lawyer left, I tried one more time. Dad, please, think about this. Connor disappeared for 15 years. I was here. I've always been here. And I'm grateful for that. But Connor is my son too. He came back. That takes courage. He deserves my forgiveness and my estate. What about me? What do I deserve? You're young. You'll figure it out. Connor's older. He's established. But he's still my son, and I want him to have something from me. Connor was 35, 3 years older than me, hardly a child in need. But I could see there was no point arguing. The will was changed. It was done. I went outside, sat on the porch steps, cried for the first time in months. Not about the money, not about the house. About my father believing I'd only cared for him out of greed. About being erased and replaced by someone who'd abandoned him for 15 years. About losing my dad emotionally before I'd lost him physically. Connor came out, sat beside me. Look, I know this is hard for you, he said. His voice was almost kind. But you have to understand. I'm his son, his firstborn. I have a right to his estate. You have a right to nothing. You weren't here. I'm here now. That's what matters to him. For 8 weeks. I've been here for 2 years. And you chose to do that. Nobody forced you. I looked at him, really looked at him, saw the calculation in his eyes. You planned this, didn't you? Showed up just late enough that I'd done all the hard work, but early enough to swoop in and take everything. He smiled. I don't know what you're talking about. You convinced him I only care about the money, turned him against me, so you could inherit everything. I just helped him see the truth. You quit your job the moment you found out he had a terminal illness. That's pretty convenient, don't you think? I quit my job to take care of him. Or you quit your job to secure your inheritance. It's all about perspective. He stood up, walked back inside, left me sitting there, realizing I'd been outmaneuvered by someone who'd spent years away and weeks playing the prodigal son. My dad died 4 months later, February 2024. The hospice nurse called me early in the morning. Your father's breathing has changed. It's time. I rushed to his room. Connor was already there, had spent the night in the chair next to the bed. We sat on either side of him, held his hands, watched him take his last breaths. I love you, Dad, I whispered. Connor said nothing, just held his hand. My dad died at 6:47 a.m., peacefully, in his home, like he wanted. I cried. Connor cried. We were both losing the same person, even though we'd had completely different relationships with him. For one moment, we were just 2 sons grieving their father. Then Connor called the funeral home, started making arrangements, acting like he was in charge, which, legally, he was. The funeral was a week later. Small service. My dad had outlived most of his friends. It was mostly Connor's wife, a few neighbors, some of my dad's co-workers from years ago. At the reception afterward, people came up to me. You were such a devoted son. Your father was lucky to have you. Connor overheard. Said nothing, but I saw him smirk. A week after the funeral, the lawyer called me in for the reading of the will. I already knew what it said, but hearing it officially made it real. To my son Daniel, I leave my personal effects and photo albums. Personal effects. Photos. Nothing else. To my son Connor, I leave my house, all bank accounts, investment accounts, and remaining assets. The house, worth about $400,000. The savings, about $70,000. The investments, another $30,000. $500,000 total. All to Connor. I got boxes of old clothes and pictures. After the reading, Connor approached me. "I'm selling the house," he said. "I already have a realtor lined up. Market's good right now. Should get asking price." "Okay. You have 30 days to move out. Get your stuff and go." "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem. But you can't stay here. This is my house now." "Connor, I have no job, no savings, no place to go. You've had 2 years to plan for this. Not my fault if you didn't. I was taking care of our father, and now he's gone. Time to move on." He walked away. I stood in my father's house, Connor's house now, surrounded by boxes of medical equipment I needed to return, photos of my dad, memories of 2 years of caregiving. And I had 30 days to figure out my entire life. I ended up moving into a cheap apartment, used what little savings I had left for deposit and first month's rent, sold some of my dad's belongings, kept the photos and a few sentimental items. Connor sold the house 3 months later, got $450,000, walked away with $500,000 total. Posted on Facebook about saying goodbye to my father's home with a photo of the sold sign. People commented, "So sorry for your loss. Your dad would be proud of you. If they only knew." I haven't spoken to Connor since the move out. Don't plan to. I'm starting over at 38, looking for jobs in IT, living paycheck to paycheck. Everything I had, my savings, my time, my emotional energy, went into caring for my father. And I have nothing to show for it. Connor has everything. $500,000 he did nothing to earn. Money from a father he abandoned for 15 years. People say I should sue, challenge the will, claim undue influence. But I can't afford a lawyer. And proving undue influence is nearly impossible, especially now that my dad's gone. Connor won, completely and totally. And I lost everything. My name is Daniel Foster. I'm 38 years old. I spent 2 years caring for my dying father. Gave up my job, my savings, my entire life to be there for him. 6 months before he died, my stepbrother appeared, manipulated my father into changing his will, inherited everything. And I got nothing. Not because I didn't deserve it, but because sometimes the people who do the least get the most. Connor abandoned our father for 15 years, then showed up at the end and played the role of devoted son just long enough to secure the inheritance. And it worked. My father died believing I'd only cared for him for money, believing Connor was the one who truly loved him. That's the part that hurts the most. Not the money, not the house. The fact that my father died thinking I was the selfish one. Have you ever sacrificed everything for family only to be betrayed in the end? Have you ever cared for someone dying and watched someone else walk away with everything? Have you ever been erased and replaced by someone who was never there? Share your story in the comments. Because caregiving is often a thankless job, and sometimes the people who do it get nothing while those who don't get everything. If you believe that you can't abandon your father for 15 years, show up at the end, manipulate your way into an inheritance, then act like you deserve it, hit that like button and subscribe. Because some people have no shame. And sometimes the villain wins. Connor taught me that. And it cost me everything. #MyStolenInheritance.